Hey everybody, this is Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome back to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 playthrough with the Reds, the GM Challenge. I've been working on for that playthrough. We're about to start spring training for the 2020 season after having a collapse last half of last season, finishing 83 and 79. Looked like we were going to win the division that first half of the year, but really took a slide in the last half of the year. Injuries, pitching staff didn't perform all that well. And so now I made a few moves, hopefully some that'll help, but I'm really going to have to rely on the prospects and the young guys that I have already on this team. I didn't really pick up any impact players over the rest of the offseason. I think the last episode, I went through a little bit of some of the pickups that I'd made and looked at some of the strategies for the rest of free agency, and it really just did not play out. Wound up I didn't pick up any really good impact players the rest of the off season. So now with the start of spring training, we're gonna just kind of look at how it's going to shape up and look at who's going to make the starting lineup on the team. We've got a roster in spring training of only 34 players. I know that's not typically how you'll see that handled in the major leagues, but with this game, I don't like to go too heavy because then it's just a lot of guys that you wind up having to put on waivers when the season starts. And unless they've really got a good shot at making the team, I usually just leave them in the leave any potential players that I might have that could do something, maybe could get some play time. I usually leave them in the AAA or the minors, but we'll see how it shapes out. I'm going to look first off just to kind of give you an overview. I know it's been a while since the last episode. I'm going to give you an overview of how the offseason went for me. If you look at just the league as a whole, some teams made some pretty big moves, mainly Milwaukee Brewers. They picked up a win above replacement gain of 10. So how that shaped up, I mean, they picked up Andrew Triggs in a trade with Kansas City, but then they were the guys who got Sale, which was probably the biggest free agent signing in the offseason. 4.5-star pitcher coming off that Cy Young award from last year. He didn't go for as high as he was wanting, which was at 1.40 plus million, but they put quite a bit of money into him. And I didn't want to go that high because this game, the way the ratings have him, I think he's dominant against lefties, but I don't know if that long term would be a great solution with that 9 movement, just 14 stuff against righties. So I don't know if he can duplicate the year he had last year, which is pretty awesome. That was his his first Cy Young in this playthrough. But a pretty big pickup for them. And then the rest of the Central, I didn't see too much going on there. Chicago, they barely had a positive balance in wins above replacement. But for us, we were 28th out of 30 teams. We lost 6.8, and that was mainly from 2 players. One, I'm not too concerned about. We lost a few guys like Billy Hamilton. We lost to free agency, who I didn't think I was going to be able to start him anyway, and so not a big loss there. We lost Romine, but then picked him up to be a backup to Tucker Barnhart because he has such good ratings against righties, so it's kind of a platoon situation there with him at catching. We did lose Waka, mainly he slipped a little bit last year, even though he tied for the league in wins with 16. ERA was pretty high, and his stuff is really not that strong in this game. St. Louis took a big gamble on him, even though he's had some decent years for St. Louis before. They went 4 years at $21.6 million. And I think with him signing, that will give us an extra pick because he was listed as a compensation pick. So I will get an extra draft pick next year because of that signing. So I'm okay with that. But some of the other guys that we lost, the big ones were Scott Schebler, who I traded to Washington, and Profar, who I traded to Miami. his wins above replacement was really good. He had a good year playing in when Peraza got injured at short. He put in a lot of time there. I think Senzel may have had some injury time too, and he looked really good. But I don't see him duplicating that as well. I think he had a really good season for him. And then the rest of the guys that we picked up Chris Owings in free agency. I liked his overall individual ratings. Plays a lot of positions, has good speed. I expect he might be more of a platoon type player, and looks like that's how Girardi has him playing in spring training. And then I also picked up Alcantara, who I traded. That's who I traded Profar for. Cam Gibson, 3-star player right now. He's going to get some starting time. He has a lot of power. He hasn't played much above AAA, but he looked pretty good last year between AA and AAA. So Girardi seems to think he's got a good chance at playing every day, so we'll see how that plays out. But looking at the pitching staff and the lineups, 6-man rotation here in the spring, it looks like it's going to be Molly, who right now my scout has a potential 3.5, so he is my best overall pitcher ratings-wise. Then Jimmy Nelson, who's a pretty solid 3-star pitcher. Castillo, Hamels, who's down to 2.5 star, even though his individual ratings are still pretty good. I worry about his stamina a little bit. And then the rest of that rotation, it's either going to be Gesellman or Lynn. And then in the bullpen, this was maybe my biggest free agent signing, Juan Nicasio. I picked him up for $4.6 million for a couple years. He's a 3.5 star player. I like the fact that his last few years he's looked really good, solid in the bullpen. But I really liked 97 appearances last year, good whip, a lot of strikeouts per 10 innings or 9 innings. If he duplicates that, this will be a good setup option in the bullpen, and that's how Girardi has him going right now. He's going to stay with Green as closer, no surprise there. And then there's several players here. We're going to see if they can develop a little bit, like Mitchell, Weiss. They haven't had much playtime so far in the majors, and hopefully they'll develop. And then for the lineups, it's going to be a little bit of a shakeup for sure. Mainly, I'm calling Trammell up because I wanted to get a look at him. He had a pretty solid year last year at AA. I don't know that he's really ready for the majors yet, but he's definitely, I don't think, ready for center field. So that would be a big, if he develops offensively, and one of the things I have to say, with Girardi as my manager, he's 2 years in a row. He went with Senzel early as in the starting lineup. That was a good move. He went with Shedrick Long last year early in spring training over Scooter Gennett, and Long was Rookie of the Year last year, had a solid year. So maybe this year the Magic can he can three-peat. Another good decision with Trammell if Trammell has a productive year. Might not be a bad idea. But then we've got Friedel, Owings, Stevenson, and coming off the bench, and then Hernandez was another guy I picked up. I like the fact that he plays a lot of positions, pretty decent contact, and some individual ratings there. So I liked him as a platoon bat and coming off the bench. Hopefully he'll help us out. He's going to get some starts in spring training, like every 6 game, 10 game or so, playing in left every 7th game. But there's some question marks here for sure. Can Shedrick Long repeat from last year? His ratings look even better. Can Senzel keep playing like he's been playing? And then some of these young guys, and Winker as well, can he have another good year like last year? And then the young guys, can they develop? And then can Joey Votto hang on and have another productive year? In this playthrough, 2018 was pretty typical of him. His average was down, but everything else was okay. Last year, he took a real big dive. And aside from the walks, which you can see there, 160 walks last year, not much going on with him. So I'm hoping that he's not going to start sliding even further and end his career earlier than I thought. He's still going to be signed through 2024. I think the last year maybe is a buyout, but that's a lot of money tied up with this guy. $100 million just in the next 4 years. So a big contract, and that was something that when I took over the team for that 2018 season, those were the two big contract issues. Homer Bailey, who I released early, and then Joey Votto. A lot of money tied up. So it's a good thing that Long and Senzel and hopefully Trammell, it's a good thing they're developing, because I'm not going to have a whole lot of money, I don't think, going forward to invest in too many players if some of these guys start tanking really early, like Votto, for instance. And then I want to get to playing here, or simming out the spring training, but looking at the upcoming free agents this year, not too bad on the offensive side, but we got Nelson. We're going to be losing Lynn. I'm not too worried about. But we're probably going to have to pick up another pitcher or two next offseason, unless another big question is if Hunter Green develops and turns into a starting prospect. Like, my best hope for him would be if going into the 2021 season, if he's ready to be like a fifth starter. Right now, I don't think he is. I think he's got some development, but he's looked good in the minors so far the last year, for sure. After first 2 years, not too great. But that's where we are going in the offseason. One other thing I would say, I don't know if I covered it, but the Cubs won the World Series last year. I think I forgot to mention that last year. But looking at the Hall of Fame, which was in January, it was Derek Jeter's first year on the ballot, so that was no big surprise. Helton got it in his second year, and then Clemens got it in this one. Bonds right off the pace. Looks like in this playthrough, those guys are probably going to make the Hall of Fame. But no other big surprises in terms of the people dropped. Did lose Omar Vizquel, who I think should get a lot more consideration than he does, just for the kind of defensive player he was, and the fact that, it's kind of like Ozzie Smith when you look at his offense. Ozzie made the Hall of Fame, and he had similar numbers, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a shame that he went out already. But let's go ahead and get started, and I'll sim a week at a time, and then take a look at maybe how the individual players are looking, and probably won't make the final roster cuts until the next episode, but we'll see how they play anyway. And right off the bat, we got an injury to deal with, and this is Herget, and he's going to be, he's a 3-star with 4-star potential. He hasn't looked outstanding. 2018 was a pretty good year for him in the bullpen, but last year he took a little bit of a setback. But I'm really counting on him. He's got to be one of my more dependable players out of the bullpen, so that's a big loss there, and that would change the pitching of it. Girardi's using him as setup, so now Peralta is going to be in setup. And Peralta is one of those guys, he's been up and down, good against lefties. He needs to really have a good year too. I would like to see him come back, because I could use a good lefty option in the bullpen. And I'm going to check the news to see if there's any other big injuries. Correa from Houston, he's going to be out for 3 weeks. And Nakamura, who is an international free agent, has some okay numbers. He could probably work as a setup guy, but he's fragile, and he's never played in this league, so I'm a little hesitant to go there. Looking at the free agents, it wouldn't hurt if I could pick up one more reliever, and there's a couple guys here that might work in a pinch. Colomb. But it seems like there's an issue, there's no solid 3, not too many guys with 3 solid individual ratings: stuff, movement, and control. Although Strope might be an okay option, although he hasn't looked too good in the last 2 seasons in this playthrough. I wonder if I could get him for a year, though. Let's see what he would... I'm going to offer him just to have some... just to have a little bit more options in the bullpen. So he's already liking that contract. Nope, San Francisco. They're offering him a little bit more. He is probably one of the better, even though his control is an issue. I mean, I might go even, because I do have some money this year to play around with. Let's see if I can, if I get him for around $1.5 million, I'll be okay. So let's keep playing out here. We're 3, 2, and 4. Not off to a great start. And now Chad Green is starting to see some injury problems. Got a trade proposal from Baltimore. They would give me Cedric Millens, looks like a minor leaguer, and another minor league pitcher for Gavin LaValle, who is at AAA this year, had a great year in Pensacola. Wonder if he won. Yeah, he had some pretty good awards there through 19. He was the Southern League Most Valuable Player Award. I didn't realize that. But that's just not a strong offering there. Montoya, OSA likes him a little bit better. And then Mullins, I got some questions about his defense. OSA likes his defense a little bit better, but I think I'll pass on that one. So Green, I don't think I should put him on the DL right now, but if he goes down, I'm really in trouble. And you can see we're 2 and 6. We're not playing good. 2 and 7. Not playing good at all. And Zach Britton is a closer who's still available, and he still wants to be the closer. Has some good numbers there, ratings wise. But I'm hoping I don't have to go that far. Now, if I looked at relievers, but if I look at just closers, yeah, he's the only thing left right now. Unless Hendricks would, he's wanting to be a closer, but I could potentially put him in the bullpen. You know, he might be okay as a setup guy. But if I sign Britton will more than likely close. And his contract demands he's wanting $12 million. I don't want to go that much for him right now, even though it'd be a 1 year. So let's look at the overall spring coverage. American League East, some guys there struggling already. Nobody above 500. Minnesota's off to a good start. Houston looking good, but Seattle 1 and 9. Looks like they have the worst record, but so do the Phillies and the Reds. We're 2 and 8, so we're not far behind. I'll take a look. It's a little early. It's hard to see, but let me look at pitching staff and see what they're looking like so far this year. Where is the spring training? So Castillo's had a couple good starts, looks like. Lynn's been rocked. Molly has been rocked. 11.12 ERA. Jimmy Nelson's not looking good either. Chad Green has looked good. So hopefully if his injury's not going to limit him any as the year goes on. But the rest of the bullpen, some pretty good numbers here from several guys. Romano, Rainey looking good. Nicasio has looked good as well. No earned runs in 6 1/3. And Iglesias looking pretty good too. And then in the lineups, Barnhart, not too bad for him. Votto, 167 batting average. Long looking good. Senzel, an 095 batting average. That's not too good. Cam Gibson, 316. That's a pretty good start for him. Winker looking good. And then Trammell, hitting 200 right now. A lot of strikeouts. So again, I'm not thinking this guy's ready for full-time play right now. So let's go another week, see if we can start winning. I think there's a good bet, and we did win a game there. There might be a good bet. I'm going to have to improve that bullpen. So I've got another proposal from Baltimore, and it's even worse. I mean, they're Cedric Mullins for Herget, who's still injured, but he's about to come off, and that's just that's not going to be a good trade at all. Oh no! So now I got another injury. Hernandez, who I'm really counting on off the bench. He's going to be out 3 weeks, so that would probably impact the start of the year for him, but not too far down into the season. So the lineup's putting him out of there. That's gonna give Blandino and Herrera more time, and neither of those guys right now are ready. I don't even know if they're ready to do full-time backup. And just a quick look at them, you can tell it's mainly that contact rating. Anything below 10 really scares me. Their defense can be pretty good, speed good, but if your contact is that low, you're going to have a hard time contributing at the major leagues, even off the bench. And here's Blandino. He's looked really good in the minors. Last year was a solid year for him at AAA. OSA likes him a little bit better. If I had to go between the two as a backup infielder, it would probably be Blandino. And now we got another injury coming up, Trammell, who's down. And our record's going up a little bit. Big win there against Milwaukee. Got Herget back. That hopefully will help their bullpen. See how this played out. Senzel, pretty good game for him. Long was 2 for 2. He's having a solid spring training so far. And Castillo picked up the win, but 3 earned runs in 4 innings. Bullpen's not looking too bad. And now it's looking like there's a bidding war going on here for Stroke. So let me see what he would take now. 1.6. I'll still go that high with him because it's looking pretty iffy right now with what I've got. I'm going to finish out this week, and then I want to take a look if there's make sure there's nothing else I'm missing. Taylor Trammell's going to be out for 3 months. So that little experiment not working out. So he's going to miss most of the year, and that's going to impact his development to the point where probably won't see him in the majors till September now, if then. So that was a big blow. And I don't have anyone, I don't think, in AA that's got some outfielders in high A and low A who have a chance of developing. Jacob Allred, Trevor Cadd, those guys look good. They're draft picks for me. But now, probably not going to be anything on the waiver wire, but looking at all outfielders, Chris Davis, who's primarily been a DH, and Corey Dickerson can play left. Uh, Cole Calhoun. He wants to be in the starting lineup. He could play right field. And then, of course, there's Para. If I needed some depth, he can play the corners as well. And he had some. He's got some good ratings still. Offensively, that contact, gap power, those are good. I wouldn't be opposed to giving him another contract offer for just to have somebody off the bench there, because now I'm going with 5 outfielders, and aside from Winker and Owens, Cam Gibson has got some upside, but neither of those guys are solid starters. But let me see what he does with the lineup. With so he puts Gibson at center, who's rated 7. He's good overall, but then Winker and Owens at the corners, pretty much same with against lefties. So not too great there. Got another trade proposal from Houston. They want Gavin LaValle, who I don't know that I would think he's going to be a replacement for Votto, but if Votto does start tanking further, I'm going to have someone there. But let me see what this guy is they're offering. Oh, come on. A half-star player, that's just not good. I'm going to reject that trade. So now looking at spring coverage, we are 5-10, so we picked up a few wins this week. Baltimore struggling, 4-12. Seattle 3-13. The West only or American League East only one team at 500, but a lot of teams with double-digit wins already in the National League. And the pitching staff. Nelson starting to show a little bit better performance. ERA's down below 5, and I think it was really high there for a while. Molly looking a little bit better in his last start. Castillo, not too shabby for his 3 starts. And then the bullpen, it's pretty good things there. Chad Green having a good year. Rainey looking good. So he might be someone that, I know his control's an issue, but he might be somebody to. And Nicasio still hasn't given up an earned run, but Tanner Rainey with those kind of numbers, if you use him kind of sparingly and just situations here and there, he might be a good option to have. Lorenzen, though, not looking too good. And I need him. He's a 2.5 star player. He's going to be in the mix. He's going to be in there. So I need to see him have a good year. And Alcantara, who I picked up in that trade for Profar, I think he's going to definitely make it on the team. Not ready to start, but he is a good guy to have in the bench or in the bullpen. Looks like he's got him at long relief and emergency starting. And then the lineups, 15 games in. Barnhart struggled a little bit. Romine, though, looking good. 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. Votto averages up to 216. Shedrick Long having a good spring. Senzel struggling a little bit. Cam Gibson is looking okay. 308 average. Jesse Winker, 343. And then Owings hitting 282. And now with that Trammell injury, he's going to get more play time. And he's coming off 2 years in a row here with Arizona, and honestly the last 4 years he's been primarily a starter. So I would think that he would be adequate at 2 stars. I think you could probably start him quite a bit. I don't think he would be too bad of an option to have there, but depth's just not that great right now on this team. So let me go ahead further here. And we're still losing, 6-12 now. 7-12, big win against Miami. I got the who got the win on that one. Winker was 2 for 2. Good outing from Molly finally. So he's 4 shutout innings, ERA down to 4.61. And let me take a look at the news. Strop. Now the Astros are offering him more. I don't think the guy's worth more than $2 million, but I'll keep letting it go. If he gets over $2 million, I'll probably bow out. Houston has maybe an interesting trade proposal. Josh Reddick. Now that I'm having some issues there with injuries in the outfield. And you can see that this playthrough's been really kind to him. So I started with that 2018 season. He has looked really good the last 2 years. Last year, injury-wise, he missed 6 weeks, and that probably hurt his overall play time, but still a good year, 346. He's got excellent ratings against righties. He's signed through 2020, so this will be his last year. He would be right field only. Would be a good pickup for the personality and team chemistry. But they're wanting Blandino. Doesn't worry me too much. I wouldn't be okay or wouldn't hesitate too much losing Blandino. Trevor Cadd, though, is the guy that I had drafted in 2018, 6th round pick, but he's got some really big upside. And this is the first year now that I've got him starting in A-ball. He's going to be in the low A team. He's just 20 years old. You can see a potential for my scout 4-star rating, potential double digits in every rating, with pretty good defense at 3 positions, good speed, and OSA likes him really about the same. I don't think I need to lose this guy right now, even though I do think Reddick would help me. And if it was just like that one piece that I was missing, if maybe that starting right fielder was all I needed to get us into solid playoff contention or even World Series contention, I would go for it. But I don't want to lose this guy right now, so I'm gonna reject this one. And Buster Posey out for a few weeks there, and Kluber for Cleveland out for 6 weeks. So let's keep playing through this week. We're up to 8-12, 8-13. Lost a couple there. And Gesellman, a small injury, not too bad. And David Price out 6 months for Boston. That's going to be a big blow for them. So now we are just about a week away from starting the season. And still a lot of bidding going on for Strop here. Yep, it's $2.2 million. And I said if it got above 2, I was going to bow out. I've got plenty of money. It's not necessarily a problem with the money. I just I really don't think he's going to give me that kind of value. He's still probably one of the best left. I mean, Cishek, he's not too bad. And he's coming off 2 good solid seasons with the Cubs. But there are some questions about his control. Might have some problems against lefties. Let me see what his ratings are. Yeah, not too good against lefties, but that's pretty solid against righties. I do think Strop, though, would be a much better option. I'll go for this $2.2 million, and that'll be it. If he won't go for that one, then I'll just probably in the bidding. But now we're gonna see if we can finish up the spring training. Got another trade proposal here. Johnny Cueto out for the rest of the year. So from Arizona, haven't heard from them, I don't think yet. Well, in the offseason I did. Kevin Pillar, who would help me immediately defensively. He's got good speed. He hasn't put up outstanding numbers. That could change, with the right mix. Not a bad contract, $5.2 million. But they're wanting Trevor Cadd, and they're wanting Romine, who at this point I need probably more than Cadd, because I wouldn't have anyone to back up Barnhart, and I got no one in the minors. And last I checked, there is just nothing available catching that would really help me out. I mean, Flowers, he wants to be a starter. I think it'd be a bad idea to sign him. And then the rest of these guys, until you get really low, don't have a whole lot of good ratings offensively. Low contact across the board until you get down to Mitchell Cranston, who's not that strong defensively. And if I'm going to have a backup catcher, I want him to be strong defensively. So Brett Nicholas, another situation there where his individual offensive ratings not too bad, batting ratings, but catcher's pretty weak. All right, so I'm gonna reject that trade. Although Pillar, and for sure I think I really think Reddick could have helped me, but I'm still looking for the long term here. Still trying to build a perennial contender. So we're at 8-16, so 8-17. We're not going to have a good spring. There's no question there. But finally win one against Chicago. And Curtis Granderson, a big injury. Big injury here from a guy I haven't really seen yet. It looks like he's just called up. AJ Minter for Atlanta's out for 4 weeks. Oh, man. So Toronto's wanting him really bad, and that's as high as I'm going. I'm just going to bow out of that one. Vince Velasquez, who in real life's having some injury problems, he's going to be out there for the season for Philadelphia. So finish out this game, and we win. So we end the spring winning the last 2 games, but not good. We finished tied with Milwaukee for the worst record, and Philadelphia for the worst record in the National League. Miami, a pretty strong spring. Cardinals and Padres, Rockies, Dodgers, good team, good years there. And the Yankees came on strong in the American League East, finished 4 games above 500. Seattle, though, couldn't put it together. They had the worst record in the spring across both leagues, and Oakland struggled 99-19. So now we're going to look at how we finished statistics-wise. So looking at the rotation, Castillo looked good, solid. 5 starts, 3.60 ERA, 2 wins, 26 Ks in 20 innings. That's good. I figured he was going to make the team and make the rotation. The bigger question is going to be Gesellman or Lynn? And right now, he's even moved Hamels down a spot in the rotation. Hamels is struggling in the spring. Nelson not looking too good either, but I think he'll have a better. His numbers will look better once the season starts. So then the bullpen is really probably where I'm going to be strongest pitching wise, and there were some good things here. Nicasio was good in the spring, so was Peralta, so he may have made the team there, made the cut. Evan Mitchell not too good, and it's mainly his stuff. So as good as he's looked in the minors, I think already I'm going to demote him down to AAA. Shackford, he's on the border. Green looked good. Zach Weiss didn't look all that great. Tanner Rainey, his control is such a bad. It's just such a gamble. OSA even thinks it's worse, but 12 walks in 8 2/3 innings. I can't do that. So I feel like he's going to be demoted as well. So I'm going to go with 12 pitchers, 13 position players. So we got 17. So there's some guys we're going to have to move down. And more than likely, Lynn might not make the cut here at all. It's a shame because I think had he not gotten injured, he would have been serviceable. But that injury was big setback. His controls is dipped a whole lot. And I just don't think I've got a place for him here. If I changed him over to a reliever, sometimes that can give a boost to the ratings, but that's not even going to give him a boost. So I hate to do it. Don't do this often, but I'm just going to have to release him. So now I've got a few decisions to make here, and it's going to be tough, but it's probably going to be guys like Shackford, Weiss, Reyes. Probably going to have to give them more time in the minors, and then the rest might have a hard decision to make there between, say, a guy like Romano, Peralta, and Weiss, in terms of which of those guys stays up. And then for the lineups, it's almost set because of injuries, and we didn't have a whole lot of depth going into the season. So I'm going with 13 position players. So I've got 14 on there now. More than likely, it's going to be Herrera who gets sent back down. He's only rated at one position, second base, and he's rated highly there defensively, but his offense is just not good enough. And I'm going to have to waive and release him. So now it's just going to come down to what I do with the pitching. I got 3 guys that I'm going to have to make the decision on whether to keep them up or not. This is going to be a tough year. It really is going to be a tough year. But I'm looking at long term, like I said, and my owner's giving me a little bit of time here. He wants us to achieve a winning record, which we've done for the 2 years that I've been here, but that might be tough to do this year. And upgrade at center field, it's going to be a year or two, I think, before I can do that. I got to hope that some of these guys in the low A and high A, I got to hope that they develop offensively this year, and hopefully Trammell, that won't set him back too much either. But for Trammell, I've always been thinking he's probably going to settle at left if he settles anywhere in the majors. And right now, Winker's just so strong offensively. I need his bat in that lineup, especially with some of the problems I foresee with Votto and a couple other positions. I'm not going to have that much offense going this year. So that's where we're at. I'm going to finish up the spring training, make those final lineup decisions and roster decisions. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, trade for anybody. I think the bullpen, I'm just going to move on from trying to pick up an extra guy there. And don't really think there's going to be much offensively available free agent-wise, so I'm going to have to go with what I got. Now, there might be checking that waiver wire, which is something I always do the last day of the season because, a lot of these teams, especially some of these teams that are more solid, have more depth than others. That last day of the season, you'll see a lot of guys on that waiver wire that the AI had to put there, to make room. It's possible I might pick up maybe a better platoon situation in the outfield. Somebody who could replace maybe Friedel or Stevenson, for instance. And Blandino, he's going to go down when Hernandez comes up. And Hernandez probably just 4 days left. I expect he'll be ready to go at the start of the season. But that's where we leave it for this one. I'm going to be ready to go for spring training or regular season in that next episode. We'll get started. And then I'll probably do another Phillies episode shortly, get back on track with that. But I think this year is going to be a challenge, no question. And that was the challenge when I took on the Reds. I thought we were going to have issues sooner or later with fielding a competitive lineup. I figured it was going to have to come down to some of these prospects developing. And so far, we've had 2 years, 2 good, solid prospects developing in Long, who was a little bit of a surprise, and Senzel, and really I would even add Winker to that list offensively. But now we got to hope that some guys get a little bit on the fast track, and also hope that Hunter Green has a good year. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.